Thank you very much for joining me. I'm meteorologist Brian Shields, and thank you for helping build this weather community. It's for safety as we go through the hurricane season, so thank you for subscribing. New areas to watch, of course, still watching the Western Gulf. We have a tropical wave headed into the southeastern and eastern Caribbean over the next few days. In this spot here, this is an old front, right? This is some of the heavy rain that came out of parts of the Bahamas, South Florida, Cuba, even the Cayman Islands last week, and it's just kind of hanging out. This area could actually develop and then swing back toward either the northern Bahamas, Florida, rest of the southeast U.S., and eventually emerge into the Gulf of Mexico. And this is the type of season we're going to have. We need to keep a very close eye on any kind of close to home spin-ups. Water temperatures are very warm, so I want to get into what all the computer models are saying, but even more importantly, what I'm seeing in the environment, and time this all out for you. Now, as we work our way into the Western Caribbean, here's Jamaica, some isolated showers and storms today, Cayman Islands too, a big surge of moisture, and a heads up, anywhere from Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador, and Belize, and then parts of Mexico, we're going to see some heavy areas of rain, and that could lead to landslides. We could see some big issues with the runoff and the rise in the river. So giving you that early heads up. Out here we are in Dominica, Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago. You get back towards St. Lucia. We've got some rain and storms here. A new tropical wave coming off the coast of Africa. Not expecting development out of that. So let me show you where we could see some development over the next few days in what I'm watching out for. First thing is first, we're going to be watching the Western Gulf down toward the Bay of Campeche. Water temperatures here very warm, 30 degrees Celsius, 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Water temperatures are usually always warm as we go through the season, so there are other factors to keep an eye out for. And then this spot here that I mentioned that will head in the general direction of Florida as we get into the upcoming week, and the northern Bahamas. Now in here, you see the sliver of red? That's the Gulf Stream, just a warm current coming from the Bahamas, lifting up toward the east coast of the United States. In that, water temperatures are about 29 degrees Celsius or 84 degrees Fahrenheit. Try to use both scales to help everyone out best I can. So as something kind of drifts toward the U.S., it is going to cross over that very warm water of the Gulf Stream, and that'll act like fuel for this. So we could see an area eventually spinning up. But what's going on above our heads? Water is one thing. The wind shear is another thing. This is the wind shear outlook for tomorrow. Well, what is wind shear? Those are kind of hostile winds in the upper levels of the atmosphere, or at least above our heads, that could knock apart a developing tropical storm. So the wind shear during the hurricane season is a good thing. Now, as we look at this red shading here, here's Cuba, Jamaica, Florida, Bahamas, a lot of red in here. That's high wind shear. So this area tomorrow that's trying to work its way into the Western Gulf and trying to develop does need to fight off some of this wind shear if it does want to develop. So that's why I'm not expecting any rapid development, but we could see something spin up because those water temperatures are so very warm. Now, looking ahead, this is Wednesday in the Western Gulf, this same area trying to fight off some of that wind shear. And that's why not all the models are saying, hey, this is definitely going to be a tropical system. But I do believe we're going to see at least a circulation, solid circulation here, and a tropical storm is still possible. Biggest issue will be the flood potential in parts of Texas. Texas, it's kind of been half and half. Some spots way too dry, others way too wet, as you know. So watching that flood potential, and then hopefully some needed rain for Mexico, but I do believe it could be too much in spots. Then we get over here. Here's Florida. We're going to see this spin that will be approaching over toward Florida. Now, not only is it going to pass over the Gulf Stream, which is very warm water, but the winds in the upper levels are not too hostile. That could allow more showers and storms to kind of build up and allow a tropical depression or a tropical storm to form. Conditions are a little more conducive for development off to the east of Florida as we work our way into the upcoming week. So let me show you some of the models, the setup and the timing. This here is the European model. So here's the Yucatan of Mexico. Get over toward Belize, Cayman Islands here. Now we have this big surge of moisture. I mentioned that, and the threat of flooding, which could be some life-threatening flooding in spots of Central America. And then this area over here, the leftover moisture moisture, tail end of that front. Now up here is an area of high pressure. All you need to know about that is it acts like a blocker. This is actually what is going to bring record heat to the northeast U.S. and parts of Canada for the upcoming week. So you have this fence up here. It's a blocker. So if something does develop, it can't just go to the north. It's going to work its way back toward the coast, kind of around that area of high pressure. And that's why something could spin back into the direction of the U.S. Now, by tomorrow, that surge of moisture in place, watching out for that flooding that I was highlighting. Look at all this rain. We could start to see something spinning up tomorrow in the western Gulf. Now, let's go out in time even more so. This here is on Tuesday. So this is where we could get a little spin developing in here. Tropical depression or tropical storm. I'm not quite sure if all this moisture is going to lift toward Texas or Louisiana or swing back toward Mexico. It's kind of hard to tell, but on guard for some of that flooding. And then seeing this buildup of moisture just kind of hanging out. You see it right here. This is on Tuesday, still hanging out near the Bahamas or just off toward the east of the Bahamas. Now, let's get into Wednesday on the European model. You see a couple things here that are notable. Watching this little broad spin developing here, sliding in some flooding rain to parts of Texas and bringing back some of that rain toward Mexico, which has been dealing with a historic drought. But then you see this rain here starting to build in, closing in on the northern Bahamas. And there's that area of high pressure I was talking about, right? That's that fence. So this can't go to the north. This is going to kind of rotate around it, winds around an area of high pressure or clockwise. That would help to bring this right toward the southeast U.S. So let's go out in time another day and bring you here into Thursday. This is Thursday. There's that area of high pressure. Whatever tries to develop or doesn't develop will move into Texas and Mexico. But either way, regardless if it gets a name or not, in the western Gulf, the biggest threat will be some flooding. Some of us need it rain, but others too much. So that's the biggest threat here. But there's that spin that could work its way anywhere from the Carolinas down into Florida as we get our way into Thursday. Now, the European model isn't showing anything crazy like a hurricane or anything like that, but it's showing some sort of spin trying to work in. Now, what will be also interesting to see as we get deeper into the week, this here is Friday. Does this work its way into Florida and then kind of move back toward Georgia and the Carolinas? Or does it stay a little bit more south? If it stays more south and crosses over the peninsula of Florida and gets into the Gulf of Mexico, then it would have a better chance of developing. So the European model isn't really developing anything too strong, but it is something to keep an eye on because as I've been talking about this season, we could have something that goes from nothing to something pretty quickly. And there's that area of high pressure, just kind of rotating this in. So let me show you what's going on here. Here's the broad picture. This here is the American model, and it's been very similar as a whole to the European model. It's nice when things are in good agreement. So as we work our way through later today, you see this big surge of moisture back toward Central America, and that's my biggest and most initial concern will be those river crossings, the flooding, the landslides, the rock slides, especially on some of those mountainous terrain and those passageways. But on Monday, you see the rain here and watching the rain here, scattered showers, which I'll get into for us, Barbados south through Trinidad. I'll break that down in a second. Now, most of this rain, here's Jamaica, all of this, most of it staying off toward the west of Jamaica. And then you see here, the American model does bring a little bit more rain up toward Texas and Louisiana versus sliding it into Mexico on Tuesday. But there's that rain there. Here we are in the Bahamas, and you get back toward Freeport, off toward the east. Look at that rain building, and you see here, stopping it here on Wednesday. So we've got a couple things. Something that may develop here. Either way, flooding is the threat regardless of the development. And then this here's that kind of spin about to cross the Gulf Stream, and it may develop and then kind of slide either into the Carolinas or Florida, kind of clip us by in the northern Bahamas. So northern Bahamas, especially New Providence North. Thank you for sharing this channel in the Bahamas. If we get a system moving our way, we'll see extra flooding. And then this here is by Thursday morning, some sort of system. Still the American model showing a weak system, maybe not even a name, bringing some extra rain, higher surf to the southeast U.S. And there's that plume of moisture here. And still down the road, there could be a secondary area trying to form somewhere near Jamaica or the Western Caribbean, and then again lifting to the north as we get into the upcoming upcoming week. There's going to be plenty to track. Don't worry about it. I'll worry about it behind the scenes, and then I'll just let you know just what I'm seeing, just to give you all the information I've got as we go through the hurricane season. So let's start with the Gulf development first. What the models are seeing, the European models not seeing a storm at this point, not a named storm at this point. We'll see if it changes. The American models and the Canadian and the Icon model, the German, are seeing this becoming some sort of tropical depression, maybe a tropical storm. But either way, and I'm going to repeat that, regardless if this gets a name, the flooding is the biggest concern. You know about that in Texas. You know how that could be in parts of Mexico, and that's the biggest concern. So thank you for getting this information out across Mexico, especially if any big rains hits that higher terrain, and we have been so dry, that runoff is going to be so very quick. Now, we get to this spot here that will get close to the Bahamas in the southeast U.S. later this week, Wednesday into Thursday. The European model is not seeing a storm, just seeing that area of rain that may move in and higher seas, still some gusty winds. The American model is seeing a tropical depression. Canadian is not seeing a tropical storm. The German model is seeing this as a tropical depression. Either way, all the models are seeing some sort of spin, and as I mentioned, it could see the models may be off a little bit because they may not take into account the very warm water of the Gulf Stream as much. So if there's any sort of spin that goes over that warm water, that could make it a named system as it starts to pull on shore. So we'll be tracking that through the week ahead. Now, if any of these areas get a name, and that's not a guarantee, the first name on the list is Alberto, and then Beryl after that, Chris and Debbie as we get down the list. And we'll get far down the list as we go through the season. It will be active. Doesn't mean we're going to necessarily get hit, but there's going to be a lot to track. I need to see those kind of current steering patterns at the time. Now, so here's the flood potential, and that really starts today. Look at this rain. Yucatan and Mexico, extreme eastern sections of Mexico, Guatemala, we're watching out for some of the heavier rain in spots. Panama, not as much. It's mainly Costa Rica north, really Nicaragua to the north. But for us, over toward the southeastern Caribbean, Grenada, St. Vincent, the Grenadines, Trinidad and Tobago, tropical wave will be moving in the next couple days. It's not going to give us a washout or anything like that, but it is going to give us a better chance of scattered showers and storms. And my friends in Haiti, the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, we're going to see bigger flare-ups throughout the week, even parts of Cuba, and even some storms in Jamaica. Those afternoon storms kind of with the daytime heating, we're going to see a better chance of that. So Puerto Rico, for example, we're going to see a better chance of the afternoon and evening storms. Looking at some of the rain totals, now I mentioned this tropical wave that will be heading in over the next few days into, say, Trinidad. It's not a big blob of rain, right? So if you do get some rain, some spots, you see the purple here in St. Lucia, could get 50 millimeters of rain or 2 inches of rain. Some spots less than that, and some spots not getting anything at all. Same thing as we get our way from Martinique, Dominica, kind of those scattered showers and storms. But in Puerto Rico, we'll watch out for a few downpours with some of the daytime heating. We work our way back toward Haiti and the Dominican Republic. And you see here that white shading. I got both scales here. That's 100 millimeters of rain or 4 inches of rain, but that's telling me that that could be in some of the storms. So watching those river crossings there. Same thing in the eastern end of Cuba. Not as much Turks and Caicos. And for us in Jamaica, we're going to see some isolated to scattered storms. Could give us a couple downpours. Otherwise, we're dry and hot. Cayman Islands on the edge of this rain. So in the Cayman Islands, I'll be watching this closely. We had the flooding about a week ago, so I'll be monitoring this surge of moisture. But look at this big plume of moisture that will head in. This is a 3-day total, and you see here eventually this is either going to slide into Louisiana, Texas, and or Mexico. Here's Mexico here. I'll widen out the view in just a second, but the Yucatan seeing some heavier areas of rain. But in this is off my chart, so you see this kind of blacker shading in here. That would be half a foot of rain, 6 inches of rain, or 150 millimeters of rain or higher, and that's what we're going to see eventually moving into parts of really Texas and back toward Mexico. But look at this rain here, Guatemala and El Salvador, and on the Pacific side of Nicaragua. Please get the word out. We are going to see a sharp runoff coming off the mountains into the rivers, bringing down some rocks in spots too. Those river crossings that we rely on, they are going to be so very dangerous. We could have 300 millimeters of rain just over the next 3 days. That's over a foot of rain, over 12 inches of rain. Clearly, that is some life-threatening flood situation. Much of Mexico on the dry side for now, but as we get deeper into the week, we'll be watching that area that will try to push in. Bigger storms in the northern part of the U.S. Look at anywhere from Newfoundland all the way down toward the Caribbean. It's crazy how the weather is so tied together. Now, it could be a little tropical development on the eastern Pacific side, but the eastern Pacific side has been historically quiet so far. We're over a month into the hurricane season on this side. It started on May 15th. Now, I do expect a quieter eastern Pacific side as a whole and more active on the Atlantic side, so that is not a surprise at this point. Broader picture just to show you some of the storms here and just show you this plume of rain and storms that stretches all the way down. There's some of the rain, at least spotty showers that will get closer to Barbados, but there's that big flare up. This is our Monday, that surge of moisture moving in, and then keeping an eye on that spot over here, that tail end of all of this. Anytime you get that area of rain just kind of hanging out, that catches my attention this time of year. We're in the hurricane season. This is Tuesday. We'll keep an eye on where exactly all this rain goes, and then watch this system headed toward the southeast U.S. and parts of the Bahamas for later in the upcoming week. Now, the top end of all of this, you see it here. This is all the way up by Newfoundland. Now, as we work right to the Atlantic region of Canada, weather a little bit better. It's been so unsettled for about a month and a half now, which is periods of rain, but we'll still see periods of scattered showers, just not a huge blob of rain. This is our Monday afternoon, watching the storms over toward the Great Lakes, some of those trying to squeak over toward parts of Quebec. And you see some of the storms northern New England on Tuesday trying to get over toward New Brunswick. So as we work our way into Jamaica, you see that rain chance starting to bump up some as the week goes on. Scattered storms will eventually start to move in. Cayman Islands, we're right on the edge of it. I'm going to watch out for that flood potential. 50% chance the next few days in Trinidad and Tobago. Not all of us get it, but we'll see the scattering of some rain and storms with a new tropical wave that will head in. Same thing in Barbados. Not a guarantee we get rain, but scattered showers and storms. St. Lucia, the next couple of days, a 40% chance. Let me know what you're getting or not getting in the comments, and I go through those best I can throughout the day. Grenada, you see that rain chance up to 50% on Tuesday. 30 to 40% chance St. Vincent and the Grenadines, 30 to 40% chance in the next couple days in Martinique. Rain chance gets a little higher on Tuesday in Dominica. We're going to be up to about a 50% chance, 20 to 30% chance of an isolated shower or storm in Guadeloupe. Antigua and Barbuda, we've had some showers around over the last few days, so keeping that rain chance at 20 to 30%. St. Kitts, Nevis, and Montserrat need some rain chance 20 to 30%, and a 30% chance Anguilla and St. Bart's, St. Martin, Saint-Eustache, 20 to 30% chance again. And then as we work our way toward Puerto Rico, we are going to see some heavy areas of rain scattered. So some dry, others though seeing some of those thunderstorms, watching out for some flooding that could impact the power grid, of course. U.S. and British Virgin Islands, rain chance on the uptick, 30 to 40% chance. Bahamas, watching the system, that's the big thing for the Bahamas this week. The northern Bahamas, to see if that area of rain starts to move in. And we'll see how that develops. Turks and Caicos, not as much as we go throughout the day. Dominican Republic and Haiti, some areas of flooding with those thunderstorms. I was showing you those rain totals a couple minutes ago. And then as we get toward Belize, that rain chance starts to get higher. Areas of flooding possible in Belize. Put your location down and what you got going on in Belize the next couple days in the comments. Aruba, Curacao, and Bonaire, that kind of in-between spot again. Also watching some dust around. Only a slight chance of a shower. Guyana, 60% chance of rain. We were highlighting that yesterday with some flooding. Suriname, a 50 to 60% chance. And as we get toward Cuba, kind of split eastern and western end, better chance of getting some of that rain. 70% chance Costa Rica and Panama, but it's really not as much in Panama, a little bit more Costa Rica, and then to the north, that's where that rain chance could give us more flooding. Watching out for the flooding in Nicaragua, especially the flooding on that Pacific side. Honduras, rain chance, it's going to be around. Watching out for the flooding. I showed you all of that rain around parts of Central America, Guatemala, and El Salvador. Again, we're going to see areas of heavy rain around and that potential of life-threatening flooding, while Mexico City way too dry. Yucatan and Mexico starting to see that rain chance taken up. We could see some areas of flooding. Colombia, 20 to 30% chance. Northern Colombia, northern Venezuela, 20 to 30% chance with some of the dust. Bermuda watching one that kind of that front kind of passing on by, and then we'll get a little bit drier as a whole. So multiple areas to watch, which happens this time of year. Last June, we were watching a few named systems in June. Heavy rain building in the Gulf where we could see some development, and then we'll be watching that spin up approaching the Bahamas in southeast U.S. as that week goes on. It is going to stay very busy this week. So thank you for sharing this channel with your friends and family, especially concerned about the flood threat and some of the locations that I was highlighting. So thank you for taking the time to subscribe to this channel and spread the word about it. Just do my best to try to help keep you safe. But this is a weather community for us. So your comments do mean a lot as far as what's going on, and it does help others to kind of get a good handle on what's happening out there with the weather. So thank you for joining me. I do hope you have a good rest of your day.